All right, the second house. So the second house, and so you always count the first house, you count one. So when you're looking at like a planet and trying to determine how far away another planet is from it, you count one house, the house that the planet's in, and then the next one. And we're doing that except for with the logna. And so the second house from the logna is the Artha or wealth house, and its Karaka indicator's Jupiter. So remember I said Jupiter was a functional benefic when I talked, or I mean an inherent benefic, and twice made that mistake now. An inherent benefic. It's the great benefic. It's the most auspicious planet in a chart. However, if it rules negative houses, then it can still become a functional malefic, though benefics never completely shed their beneficence, the fact that they're benefic inherently, such as Jupiter and Venus, and Saturn and Mars and the nodes. They never really, and not so much the Sun, but Saturn, Mars, and the nodes. They never fully kind of remove their malefic quality. So if you have like an exalted Mars, you might still have issues with anger now and then, right? So the second house is an Artha house or wealth house. So the second house relates to money, wealth, family, domestic happiness. So like how harmonious a house is, knowledge, a person's speech, and it's related to poets and orders, and it's the main determinant of someone's overall ability to earn money, not to gain wealth. And there's a big distinction there. Later houses, such as the 11th house, can or the 5th house or 9th houses, can show unearned wealth or wealth that comes from windfalls, right? Or the 8th house can even show wealth in the form of either an 8th house career, like being an astrologer, or from working in insurance, or actually receiving a legacy can be seen in the 8th house. So there's other houses that allow you to get money, but when it comes to that kind of like your main job, your main focus, your main way of earning money, that's indicated by the second house. And so being the main determinant of someone's overall ability to earn money, it's the house of poets, bankers, interestingly enough, educators, and orators. And a lot of people consider bankers to be evil, and it's just not true. I mean, certainly some of them absolutely are, obviously, but what's not well known is that some of them are actually really wonderful people, who are just kind of like doing what they can in an increasingly corrupt system. A lot of them, some of them rather have left because of the corruption getting worse there, just like everywhere else in society, right? It's late Kali Yuga, but the end is coming soon. So the second lord's considered neutral, so it doesn't change the quality of, so like a malefic planet still remains malefic, and a benefic planet still remains benefic. And poor indecisive Mercury is like, okay, well, I need to know what other house I rule to tell you what my quality is. And so yeah, I mean, if Mercury is from a Leo ascendant, because Mercury then rules the second 11th, so it's just really super ultra giga neutral. Whereas if it rules Gemini and it's a Taurus and it rules the second house of Gemini and the 5th house of Virgo, then you can know that Mercury is benefic because it rules the 5th house. So the second house doesn't give you any positive or negatives, whereas the first house is always positive, the second house is always neutral. So you have to look and see what else it rules. So there you go. The second house is incredibly important, not just because it's a primary indicator of one's ability to earn money in the primary profession, but also because it's a huge determinant around home life. It can indicate high earnings in a tranquil home or lower income and chaos in the home, and those two are very often interlinked. It's like one of the main things that cause domestic difficulties is between partners is money. It's probably the number one thing people argue about. That doesn't entirely go away with wealth. In fact, sometimes it can be much worse because there can be titanic power struggles over money, but at least there's no more of that stress of living paycheck to paycheck or worse, right? So it's very difficult to have a tranquil home if your basic needs aren't getting met. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So it's also very important in how it causes one to comport themselves verbally, right? Like the way people talk really shows up in the second house. So Mercury and Gemini in the second house for a Taurus ascendant, for example, would be a true poet, a silver-tongued wordsmith, right? So this is when Mercury's posited in its own second house of Gemini. That person is going to be able to talk into anything, right? They're just going to be a silver-tongued wordsmith and able to entrance the mind of anyone who listens to him. You got to look at the rest of the chart to see whether someone is necessarily a good guy, right? Like that doesn't, we're not looking at character here. We're looking at their ability to be influential. So it could be an orator who's astoundingly good and able to inspire millions of people in a really positive direction, right? Or it could be someone who the rest of their chart indicates a very negative character, and they might use that oration to lead Germany astray in the 30s, for example, right? I'm not saying that I don't think he actually did have a Taurus ascendant in Vedic, but I'm just using that example of oration used for evil, but someone being really good at it, right? So by contrast, if you have Rahu in Aries in the second house, that might give an insatiable desire for income because of Rahu's quality of insatiable desire, but it would also give a propensity to swear and to speak in an undignified manner. I actually have Rahu in my second house natally, and so especially under 40, I'm a bit better now, but under 40, I just swore like a sailor, just absolutely ridiculous. And so now in my post 40, I had it's much better. I'll just say that. So that is the second house. It also can rule appetites around the mouth. So things like smoking or drinking or overeating can be seen in the second house. A lot of people have high income will have one of those three things as well. It's very possible. And what's also interesting is that there's a link between the second and eighth houses. The second house is opposite the eighth house, and so having a lot of planets in the eighth house can mean you have a very high income, but something about what you do is secretive, clandestine, or astrology, mysticism, esoteric, so and people have a lot in the second house, a lot of planets in the second house, they aspect and heavily activate the eighth house. And I think this is part of the reason that elites very often are very interested in the, especially the occult aspect of spirituality, the eighth house type metaphysics, where you have an interface between the material realms and the mystical realms. And as opposed to the 12th house, which is transcendent spirituality, and the 9th house, which is like more within your religion of birth kind of spirituality. So that's it for the second house. Lots more to come. Thanks. And just to continue, forgot to say this. If you're interested, I will be teaching astrology classes probably sometime in late October, early November of 2023. And then I am doing astrology readings through elite for natal charts, which is the first 40 years of life, and Navamsa, the last 40 years of life. And I am doing that at least through the end of October 2023. At some point, I'll be switching into working for a company. And at that point, I'll be doing far fewer and maybe no readings whatsoever, except for returning clients. So if you're interested, now's the time to book. Thank you and have a great day. Bye.